Hello, good afternoon. My name is Kenneth Igiri. And if you are joining Iwiniti Africa, a broadcast for the first time, I'd just like to let you know that the whole point is showcasing the wonderful work of amazing entrepreneurs emerging in Africa. I do have a tech background, and I happen to have worked with a few fintechs in my career in the financial services sector before my current job. And it's an area that interests me. And as a backstory, one of our guests today basically shared something on LinkedIn, and we thought we could have a conversation around the rise of fintechs. In today's conversation, we will cover what we mean by that rise of fintechs, what the impact is, elements, conversations around fraud, around financial inclusion, operational excellence, and what we think fintechs might be like in the future. It's going to be a deep conversation because we're looking at this from two amazing perspectives: the core tech perspective and the operational excellence, the governance perspectives. So if you've seen the flyer, you probably know who Richard and Shikemi are already. They're going to introduce themselves very clearly in this in the early parts of our conversation. And we hope that at the end of the day, if you are running a fintech company, if you are part of a vision like that, if you are part of a financial institution, you will gain some insights that can help shape your business. You'll be able to maybe connect with our guests later on and mine their own experience in shaping your business. So I'm going to open up the floor for them to introduce themselves. And while they're doing that, wherever you're joining us from, please share in the comments and do invite someone to have this conversation with us. So ladies first, Shikemi, tell us who you are.
All right, thank you, Kenneth. Happy to be here. Please confirm that you can hear me. We're still very much in the part of the world where we need to double check some of these things. Awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Shikemi. I like to introduce myself as a CTOO. We were having a conversation shortly before we went live, and Richard was quite curious as to the title, but it's my reality. So my background is both in technology. I read computer science, master's in information, did coding engineering, did everything that you could think of. But then somewhere along the line, I got thrust, I like using that word, into operations. Not willingly, but I've come to embrace it. And think of operations as your backend operations. So the reporting, the customer support, the settlement, in the case of fintech, the dispute resolution and everything that you can think of. So I happen to also be experienced in that field. But what I find quite curious throughout my journey is that even though I was in operations, I wasn't really doing operations. Let me explain. So while I was in operations, I realized that what I was doing was digital transformation, looking for ways that we could improve the quality of our service and, more importantly, sustain them. And so that led me down that journey of starting my own business as a transformation consultant in IT. And fast forward to 2025, I am here as a CTOO helping organizations with tech products, because again, I'm a techie, streamline their operations for more predictability. And yes, I hope to be able to contribute to the conversation as best as I can. And I look forward to chatting with everybody today. Thank you.
Thank you, Shikemi. And we've had a lot of powerful words today. And as we go along the conversation, we trust that we'll be able to break them down further.
Yes.
All right. So let's hear from Richard. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so name is Rishi Dodu. I'm founder and CEO of Finance Mobile. And what we do at Finance Mobile is we help the banks with their digital transformation, mostly. Our products mainly specializes in invest wealth management, but the underlying solution is, of course, payment. We've been able to scale across 12 countries. I think this year we'll be doing our 60th country. And the amazing part is that we are doing all this fully as a bootstrap company. And it's very, very tough scaling across all these countries while not raising any capital. It's amazing. Then that means that your revenue must be there, operational excellence must be there, your people management must be there. And I'm hoping to be able to really contribute to this, really share our knowledge, our experience, and everything. And just recently, as of last year too, I also started a new startup which is called Metaschool AI. And I have very good experience in AI, and one of the places that I'm really contributing to right now is in terms of education. So during my spare time from whatever I do at Finance Mobile, I try to use that time to really grow Metaschool AI. We've signed some very huge contracts to scale across the African continent, and we are just starting. So I'm happy to really contribute to this discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Metaschool AI and Finance Mobile, bootstrapped. And that was an interesting area. We typically talk about bootstrapping because of the emergence of something that E or Flutterwave called entrepreneurship as a service, where entrepreneurs are so focused on impressing investors that they forget that they are actually trying to win customers. So you find out that the whole struggle is, how do I pitch and get $100,000, rather than how do I create a product that shakes the market. So thank you for mentioning that word, bootstrapping. So we're going to go deeper into the conversation and talk about the rise of fintechs, right? So there's a lot of excitement. I know we knew about 6 to 9 fintechs that have become unicorns in the last 6 years or so. And basically, there's a lot of hype around them. We hear of them. They're doing great things, technically speaking. So we want to hear your perspectives. Is there a rise of fintechs? Are we advancing in that area in Africa? And is it a healthy rise? What is the impact of this rise? Is it something that we should be rejoicing about, the nature of this sudden ubiquity of fintech companies? Richard, let me hear from you first.
Yeah, so I think there is a major rise in fintechs across Africa. Other people may look at it from maybe a typical area. People may look at that angle from is maybe fintechs are raising all the capital or the money. So why not? It means that they are doing something well. But if you look at the problem, is that the financial ecosystem in Africa is not really that advanced. We've not really gotten there yet. The fintechs are playing roles that traditionally the banks have been not wanting to play or have been lazy to play, or maybe because their license does not allow them to play. Either way, you may find a reason why the fintechs are really making it big. Why will I say so? Because right now, let's look at maybe a trader on the road. The trader needs just about $10 just to enhance their business. No bank will give that trader that $10. It's $10. Today, they can just pick up their mobile phone and a fintech partner powers all this end to end. That trader is able to get that $10. And you speak to a bank, the bank will tell you our operational cost, the number of people they have to even put to approve that loan exceeds that $10. So how are you going to extend the $10 to you? It doesn't make business sense to the bank. Let's look at the money too. It's just a typical example the same way. I can sit here and transfer money to maybe, I think right now, I don't know, right now we've been able to do the interconnecting between countries right now. I can send money from Ghana to Nigeria at almost no cost. Sometimes the cost goes as low as 1%, and it's even capped. Looking at the operational activities of traditional banks, they will not effectively compete within that way. They have already built their rails such that these payments has to go all the way to the US before it reaches my colleague in Nigeria. It's not
Yeah.
feasible. So, and this is why we are actually seeing major fintechs rise. And it's not just in Africa. When you go to mostly in Asia right now, Alipay as at last year processed over $19 trillion. $19 trillion. This is 6 times the GDP of Africa. Let's put this into perspective. Then that means that for every money that moved on the African continent, 6 times of that was processed by just one fintech. And today, I can't simply, moving the fintech conversation out. I'm looking at giving just the banking systems. I can just get a $10 loan to do something. So the problem in Africa is so huge that once we have small people or companies that are really ready to open up their ecosystem, you will see that they will start growing because the demand is so much. People who have started taking loans are not even taking loans from just one payment companies. Mostly they will use about 6 or just to make sure that if I'm getting 10 here, I can get 10 here. It's bad. It has its own repercussions and every other thing. But we will see them keep on growing just because the demand or the problem is so huge. It's not just a wave, it's going to continue on. Maybe what I see from where I'm sitting, maybe we are just going to get to the apex somewhere about maybe in about 50 years time, because the demand is just there. The current fintechs cannot even fill the void in the markets right now. So it's a major problem.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is that this rise is driven by demand and by the problems, the nature of the problems we have in Africa, which I think you've alluded to, at least to financial inclusion, access to capital, and the current operational mode of the traditional banks. So probably we'll delve into that more, but I think you're saying that yes, there is a rise, and that rise is driven by the need, and that rise has unbelievable capacity to scale, as we've seen in the case of other geographies. So Shikemi, what are your thoughts around this rise as well?
The first thing I would say is I hope we don't wait till 50 years, Richard, because that would be really, really disheartening. So I'm with Richard on the rise and the reason for the rise. As an economy, we're becoming more financially aware of our possibilities, which is a good thing. A couple of years ago, and this again has to do with the fintechs that started the movement in the continent. So a couple of years ago, some conversations around let me transfer to my Volcana would never happen. Right? You'll just be like, Auntie, what are you saying? But now we've normalized the fact that peer-to-peer transfer is here to stay. So that's good. But for me, I think the rise needs to be balanced with, and I'm wearing my CTO hat. The rise needs to be balanced with doing things well. Yes, we're trying to provide loans. Yes, we're trying to address the market that the banks cannot address. But even in all of these things, how well are we doing it? Right? Because yes, you mentioned the investors. Fintech, they have like the largest. Well, at the time, though, I don't know about 2025. They had the largest percentage in terms of investments into the continent, right? But even now, that is starting to dwindle, but not badly, but in a way that says, no, you have to prove to me that this thing works, because we've done the old talking game and the possibilities game, and investors are no longer having it, and now they are saying, show me more, show me evidence that you understand the problem, show me evidence that what you're solving for is actually sustainable. And the reality is that the way we are approaching this is not different from the way we were raised. Let me explain. So I was having a conversation the other day. I was like, when you think about the way we grew up, we didn't grow up knowing how to plan and create goals and anything. from school, from when you were growing up, you had your parents telling you what to do. This is the time to go to bed. Don't do this, don't do that, blah 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 blah. Then you go into the school system, and the school system is pretty much telling you the same thing. This is the starting time, this is the ending time, this is the exam period, this is midterm. You do all of that into university, right? Structure. And then you come out, and then somebody expects you to know how to set goals for your own life. Like, what am I doing in the next 5 years? I'm like, you never empowered me. You've always told me what to do. Why are you suddenly asking me what I'm going to do? I don't know how, right? But instead of us to admit that we don't know how, then we try to, again, dangle it. And then whatever happens, happens. Now, let's bring it to the business mindset. It's the same principle. It's like we're waiting for people to tell us what to do. So there is somebody says, I have had people come to me to say they want to start a business, and I'm asking, what need are you solving? And you say it's because somebody mentioned in passing that if only we had this thing. What are you talking about? That's not how businesses are run. You have to sit on the problem. You have to understand the problem. You have to understand why. What is the root cause behind the experience you just had? We don't know how to. So what? Even though we are rising as what? We're rising to what? So I feel like the rise needs to be qualified, because for me, quality is very important, and I don't think we're there yet. So we are spinning up a lot of ideas based on some people is copycatting, some people is just let's take advantage, like the example you gave about the Flutterwave executive entrepreneur as a business, but we don't understand how to solve problems. And the reality is solving problem is a long-term thing, because even the problem will have Hydra head. But you have to be able to sit on it, and understand what exactly we're solving for. Like the loan now, when Richard mentioned somebody taking 10 million here and 10 million there, I'm like, we've not solved the loan problem. We've not solved the loan problem. Because if we have, then we'll understand what the person actually means. Right now, the person is just gaming the system, which even puts us to more risk. So to just summarize, my view is, yes, we're rising, but we're not rising as good as we should, because we're now spinning multiples of the same thing, and nobody is solving the issue completely. Let's even point to one person that has solved something. I have to give it to Money Point. I think the reason why Money Point is able to say, and everybody's following them and they have so much clout now, is because they've sat on one problem and they've tried to understand it and solve it as well as possible. Same thing with OPay. So I'm going to keep quiet now.
That's amazing. So I think you're saying these fintechs may be rising too fast and skipping some quality checks, and maybe there's not enough differentiation in terms of what each one is actually doing. But if you say that we've not really solved some critical problems, what about that? I think the basic problem of payments, is that what you are giving a thumbs up to MoneyPoint and OPay for?
Oh no. So it's the fact that they are trying to solve the problem that is peculiar to the category of merchants that they are dealing with. So technically, when MoneyPoint started, in my view, and I'm happy to stand corrected, they weren't focused on the shop rights. They were focused on the mom and pop shop, because those people could not wait for settlement the next day. They couldn't wait for you to do all your T-1. Again, we are all fintech people here, T+1 settlement and all that drama. And people need to be able to get money into their accounts directly. Do you know how amazing that is? And that was what we're solving for. And all of a sudden, even when I hear the noisy POS for MoneyPoint, I already know it's a MoneyPoint POS. But I was trying to pay for fuel the other day, and somebody gave me the blue terminal, and there was no noise. I was like, why is POS not making noise? I like it too, but that's able to tell you how much they've permeated, that ecosystem. So that's what I mean by, solving one problem for a particular group of people and solving it completely. Now, payments from an ATM point of view, we solved it. Ability for EcoBank users to be able to withdraw from UBA terminal, fantastic, chef's kiss. But transfer, which is also amazing, is fraught with the P2P one is fraught with a lot of issues. If you go to Twitter, it's just people complaining about money, missing money, debits. And we keep looking at those things as the norm. It's not the norm. If you're gonna build a rail, your rail needs to address when the train wants to turn back, aka reversal. You can't just say the train has to be going straight. It's either you're going straight or you're not, or you keep going. That it doesn't make sense. So I feel like my passion is coming out. So let me calm down.
That's a good one.
I reset.
So Richard, let me come back to you because you have done this. You have incorporated, fintechs. There is this in terms of the rise of fintechs, and Shigemi has said that we need to look at the quality on both the part of the fintechs and the part of their definition of the problem they are solving, and even on the part of the people they are solving this problem for, who are in quotes gaming the system.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you shift the conversation a little bit further in terms of how these fintechs are being incorporated. What are your thoughts on this prevalence of incorporation in foreign geographies? Tell us a bit about what you know about that.
Kenneth, this I think you see you've said it very simple, but it's very complex. It's very, very complex behind the scene. Someone would just say, I'm just incorporating my company in the US. I'm in a Nigerian company. Why can't I just incorporate in Nigeria, raise my capital, and just operate? I'm in Ghana. Why can't I just do the same? The challenge right now is that all the capital that is needed to run the fintech is coming from outside. Yes, look at Flutter Money Point raising over $200 million at this valuation. We call the company a unicorn because it's raised over $1 billion at $1 billion valuation plus. When you look at the cap table, you realize that 90% of the money is coming from the US. The investors have to protect themselves. And to be able to protect themselves, they want to make sure that the company is incorporated in the US so that just in case of anything, the investors are more familiar with the US system, or in this instance, Delaware, they are very, very familiar with the tax system. If the company, they want to do anything on the board, they are very familiar with those laws. So they encourage you to incorporate in Delaware before they even give you any money. Otherwise, if you're not ready to incorporate, because they don't want to now get used to the Nigerian system, the Kenyan system, the market is so fractured, such that when I'm bringing so much money, and bear in mind, they're not just incorporating in just one company, they'll be doing it across the whole continent. So they want stability, and they'll ask you that incorporating these companies, such that when we know that we understand our risks in this instance, when they're also telling their LPs, that people who have placed money in the investors pool, because they also take money from a pool of, they'll tell you that, okay, it's a Delaware company, they understand the risks. If the company has to be wind down, they know what they need to do. They don't now have to get a Nigerian lawyer to, what does this, how are we going to wind down this Nigerian company that we've invested in? No one will do that, especially at those volumes. Maybe for the seed capital, they want to do it. Now, the risk here is that we are making all our fintech become global US companies, not necessarily global companies, but US companies. That means at the end of the day, all the profits has to be taken outside because we are not investing in these companies ourselves. Imagine a company like Stripe being owned by maybe Chinese or maybe when they were starting, I'm just using for example, okay, when they were starting, the US people were not ready to invest in their own companies, and maybe the Chinese did. Then that means today Stripe would have been a Chinese company, and it's the same thing that's happening in our ecosystem right now. until we as Africans start to invest in our fintechs, not just in our fintechs, but in our companies. This will continue because as a founder, I'm looking for where I will get cheap capital or capital that long-term capital that I can use to run my companies. And it's a long ball game. Last time I was in an investment call with one of the investment houses who wanted to invest in our edtech company, and the discussion was it's interesting. They look at everything. They look at our revenue. They looked at our customer base, and we were just valued as $1 million. So Richard, I'm going
So
to
the
give you this.
unicorn journey is fine.
It's no, but it doesn't. I just told him that yeah, I understand you, but my company's worth more than this. I can't take your money. Few days later, you are in a discussion with an investor from the US, and they looked at everything. They look at the model. Wow, you build this, you're able to analyze video in real time. So wow, and the valuation they give, and that valuation is almost 20%. I say 20 times what the local investor was giving you. How are we going to grow? You get what I'm saying? So it is, we have to understand the sort of problems that we are solving as a country. If the company is at this value, please give the company that value. At the end of the day, it's worth it. I was reading Money Point, one of the very early investors. They invested about, is it $150,000? I've forgotten the actual valuation. They made over 60x of that money when the company turned into a unicorn. This is the sort of stories, success stories we have to be looking at. So we really need to tackle this. It's a huge problem. It's a very huge problem. Apart from brain drain, that means we are also draining our startups or our huge startups. One day we will start about, it's not a Nigerian company, it's a Delaware company, of course. And when you look at the papers, it's actually a Delaware company. It's not a Ghanaian company, it's a Delaware company. When it's successful, but when it fails, it's a Nigerian company, it's a Ghanaian company. So that's where we are seeing we really need to solve this.
That's amazing. And I think, would it be the case that we simply don't have enough money in this part of the world to even dream of valuing small companies as what, 20 million at the start, or it's
That's
just unwillingness to do so?
It's two ways. One, it's either we don't understand the intrinsic value of the startup. If the value company is actually $1 million, of course it's $1 million. If the value of the company that you are seeing is $20 million, has this potential, has signed, actually executed this contract and bringing X revenue, you can valuating a company is, there's a playbook to it. You can actually just sit down and just actually look at the numbers and say that this is the worth of this company. In 10 years, this is where I think this company will get to. So it's a playbook. So if the company is worth 20 million, you want to put $1 million because you think that it's not. At the end of the day, what you do is that you end up, okay, you may get very good shares in the company, percentage in the company right now, but you end up hurting the whole company. Because once you invest at $1 million, and another investor is coming and he realizes that you invested at $1 million, I don't know why I should invest at $20 million. Yes, it's that nobody will do that. So once I know that this investor is actually invested at this stage, maybe we are all at pre-seed, and this investor invested at pre-seed at $1 million. Why am I also coming to pre-seed and also invest at $20 million when the fundamentals of the business has not drastically changed? So we are hurting ourselves.
Absolutely. So yeah. So whether or not I can invest, at least I should affirm or acknowledge the value of the company, and then put in the money that I can put in, and then we take it from there. That's a powerful point. I'm going to switch to Kemi again. Go ahead, Richard. You wanted to add the thoughts?
Yeah, so just small. One thing I've also seen is that we have to tackle this problem as an institution or from. I've seen the Ghana Stock Exchange bring out some products to really make this investment into companies very easily. So it's more of like a pool of investments. So if we realize that, okay, maybe I don't have that money to invest at that valuation, but of course we can get a pool of people to bring our money and we can invest at that valuation. We'll be pushing the startups. There are certain problems in terms of the problems with capital, it will always be there, but we have to be intentional in how we solve the problem. If we know that this company is worth $1 million, I don't have $1 million, maybe $10,000 to invest for this percentage of the shares, but we can get a pool of people who maybe want to invest. Everybody brings just $1,000. We all invest. I'm just looking at maybe at a very early stage of a company like Money Point. We all just get that money. We put that money into the startup, and when it gets big, we are all smiling. The company is also able to grow because they have the money that you are putting into the company. You're not just giving the money; it's the fuel. Companies, that money is our fuel. If as soon as the money just dries, like the engine just dies, so we need to put in real money. That's it.
All right, thank you, Richard. That's awesome. I think Shikem is smiling a bit, and I think he's probably thinking about what I'm thinking about: crowdfunding. I'm going to ask her to share her views on crowdfunding and whether it's something that can work for us in our part of the world, pending when we have we begin to be more robust, able to sink millions of dollars. So before that, I'd just like to ask those watching, if you have a question, maybe you've heard Richard talk about what the Nigeria and the Ghana Stock Exchange is doing, some of his experience. Please ask questions if you feel there's something that you want him to dig deeper into, or you want Shikem to dig deeper into, that will help you in where you are. And wherever you're joining us from, share with us who you are, what you're doing, and what you hope to gain from the conversation. I'd like to acknowledge Rachel, who is joining us from Ghana, and Nuruddin, who is also joining us from Ghana. So we're going to be further talking about the impact of fintechs in the economy, a little deeper into that. But before that, let me hear your thoughts, Shikemi, on this investment issue. What do you think about the concept of crowdfunding? Is it a model that can work for us? What do you think?
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
When we were crowdfunding for Agric in 2019 or 2018? Did you crowdfund
for Agric?
Yes, where you would put in like 9 months, you get like 50% ROI. Did you crowdfund?
Interestingly, we did something like that, but that wasn't really a crowdfunding. It was more. It was more like a digital kind of, but it wasn't crowdfunding at the scale of like Indiegogo or right. So we did some in Ghana. Interestingly, that was 2016. That was 2016. We did some. So the idea was you have a large farm, and you basically co-own a farm, more or less.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So you want me to tell the whole story, right?
No, don't tell the story. So to answer the question directly, whether you crowdfund, whether you seed, whether you do angel investments, I keep saying you rise and fall to the level of our systems. Period. Doesn't matter the instruments. It depends on the maturity of that instrument. And as Richard was talking about investments and the story between the evaluation in country and the evaluation or valuation out country, what just kept coming to my mind is these two phrases that we confuse: growth and scale. Growth and scale. So growth would happen organically, and it's usually coming from revenue or customer sales. You are growing, people know you. Fantastic. You get more money. But there might not be a method to how you are growing. But somehow the gods are smiling on you and you are making more money and people are buying. That is growth. Now, scale on the other hand is more intentional. It means saying this method that is working, how can I make it the standard? in my company so that going forward, I am there, I am not there. Because I'm sure if Richard says he's not doing again now, cough, cough, I don't know whether, what will happen, right? And so scale, on the other hand, is thinking long term. Is saying what are some of the things that I need to put in place to be able to keep repeating the success of growth, whatever that looks like. And in the investment landscape, it's no different. You can't say because you're investment, you are impervious to process, or you are impervious to maturity or scale or rails. So yes, when we started investment, it was, COVID, it was so sweet, and everybody was just, so we grew organically, whether from ideas to funding or vice versa. Somehow that relationship produced growth on both sides. More investors, more businesses, and more ideas. So now that we are getting to the point where the growth, the approach that we used to grow is not sticky. So now investors are investing, business is not sure. Business are businessing idea, investor is not sure. See, for me, I see a scale problem, which is nobody has sat down to say what is it that produced results the last time and what should it be going forward. I empathize with you, Richard, but if I was the guy that was in your front that was trying to evaluate you, I'll probably edge my bet, because there's just been too many basketballs recently where they put so much faith, and you can't blame them. They put so much faith in business, and business owners are doing shenanigans. Like shenanigans. No, that doesn't preclude the fact that there are honest people out there, but we can't be naive and think that, oh, there is not a problem with that landscape. So, Kenneth, crowdfunding would work, because the reality is that some people are actually living their life through crowdfunding right now. The way they live day to day and the way they live year to year is from crowdfunding. Is she can be alpha, Kenneth alpha. So it's not impossible. People are doing it and they are low key succeeding. Sometimes they will even join the loan people to their crowdfunding temporarily, but they don't make those ones the recurring this thing. But the question is not whether crowdfunding would work. It is, what was it about crowdfunding that worked last time, especially in the agri space, right? And how can we make that a system that works and put checks and balances such that, and this is not talking about crowd, no, this is talking about what is the instrument behind the crowdfunding, and who is making sure that the things that they are supposed to be doing, they are doing it. I belong to a cooperative, right? Some of my money has entered bush with agri. We crowdfunded. They gave me sweet ROI, 750% ROI in 3 years. I was like, ha, I'm doing this. But me, my own rule for investments is that I don't invest more than a certain amount on things I don't know. So for me, even though the money is gone, the money is not that serious. I can still live my life. But on the group chat, you will see people that will be saying, do we know that they went to collect money and borrow money to invest in? I say, it's not 70%, 50% ROI. People went to collect millions. People went to borrow from family. They went to borrow from this thing to be able to do that. And I think that. So the point I'm making is that it's not so much of the vehicle. It's the system behind that vehicle that is going to guarantee the outcomes that we want. As long as we keep approaching businesses as luck, or there's a place for luck, don't get me. But if we keep building putting our eggs into the basket of luck, Nigeria will happen to you. I don't like that statement, by the way. All of those things. Then we are missing the things we can control. And the things you can control as a business owner is quality. Focus on that. Thank you. I'm going to again.
Amazing. Amazing passion. And when we talked about crowdfunding as a way of life in Africa, incidentally, back in 2018, no, I think 2016, 2017, we actually attempted to start a company that would do crowdfunding plus event management. And part of the rationale was that, like Shikemi said, most quite a few Africans, Nigerians, are already living on crowdfunding, but it's not formalized, right? It's not like on a website. It's just like a set of, uncles and aunties, brothers and sisters, cousins, and so forth. And life goes on. So we thought that, this is cultural. This is part of us. Black tax is cultural. So maybe we could just digitalize that culture. Obviously, it didn't work out quite well. But like you said, there must be a solid system backing the the instrument, whether it is crowdfunding, whether it is, the stock exchange or whatnot, in order for us to say that we are moving forward with respect to how investment is done in local businesses. So moving on from there, 1,200 fintech companies, right? That's our count over the past few years, 1,200. We know that about 69 of them have become, what do you call them? Unicorns. But 1,200. Some obviously have failed, etc. I know we touched on this before, but is the economy changing? Is Africa changing as a result of the work of fintechs? I know that Richard touched on the fact that somehow people may have better access to money, whether it's loans or otherwise. But overall, do we think there is a positive impact on any African nation that we can trace to the rise of fintechs? Let's start with Richard. Okay. If you could please unmute, I'll just unmute you. Yes.
So from where I work, I think what I see, I think the most powerful impact of this is on financial inclusion. Of course, that's the underlying nature. One major challenge that we've seen for the past year across sub-Saharan Africa, maybe excluding the francophone markets, we operate in the francophone market, but maybe specifically, maybe Ghana, Nigeria, is currency devaluation. The first time I invested in the capital market was 18 years ago. 18 years. I think I'm in my 18th year since the first time I actually invested in the stock exchange. Since then, the Ghanaian cedi has fell over 1,000%. Nigeria, the naira is even worse. So it's bad. So just imagine if I had just kept all my money in Ghana cedis and just invested it in the Ghana Stock Exchange. In terms of the value on the money, when you go, you will see it as, oh, okay, I've made some returns. Okay, of course, because maybe you've made 500% over the 18-year period. But the actual value of the money has fallen by over 1,000%. So people, that's the distance. And right now, with the rise of fintechs, so they can sit here and invest on the New York Stock Exchange. Banks were not offering this. Only the fintechs stood in and filled this specific gap. So I'm seeing a lot of this. Secondly, we spoke about the loan. I can sit in my home and get a $10. I just see it as that $10 is so magical. It's a magic number because it does so much for people. You go across the streets in Africa, you see people selling coconuts on the streets, selling pure water on the streets. Everybody's on mobile money, especially here in Ghana. In Nigeria, of course, there are similar systems. Everybody's on mobile money, and almost everyone you meet has taken a loan. They've never taken any formal loan. Now, I'm talking, when I say formal loan, I'm talking from the banks. But everybody has taken maybe a quick loan. We have one of the products we have here in Ghana, a quick loan. There's another one, a home car loan. There are so many loan products. So I think the power, what I'm really seeing coming in from all this is financial inclusion. The problem is very huge. All the fintech that we are seeing, all this unicorn, we've not solved. You mentioned over 1,200 fintechs across the continent. We've not solved 1% of the problem. The problem is huge. People buy cars these days, and they still have to pay cash. If I'm buying a car worth about $40,000 in Africa today, I still have to pay cash just to pick that car. If you want to buy a house, you literally have to pay for the whole house. The use of mortgage is quite very slim and reserved for very few people. So where I'm seeing a lot of traction is financial inclusion. And when I started that, where we are actually going to reach our apex is maybe 50 years time, as Sikimi was saying that, hey, we shouldn't hold on till then, so we reach there. But where I'm actually, the main reason why I'm saying is that until then, that we are going to see it's being very common that I don't have to pay maybe $200,000 for a house before I can start living in it. I can just pay maybe $20,000 or 1% of the house. I can start living in it and just spread the balance across over 10 or 20 years, and it's become normalized, not just reserved for a few people. So that's why I'm seeing the major traction. The other part is the value of employees. Fintechs have changed the ball game, especially in my company. We use a lot of engineers, and the value, I say, you will hit more on that. So since you also deal a lot with engineers, the cost of engineers has risen so high. Today, on the average, a senior engineer, depending on where they are working, is taking about $5,000 or plus, depending on where they are working. Just 10 years ago, if you don't work in a bank or a telco, you cannot even get up to 30% of that value unless you are working in a bank or telco. And right now, you can see that most of the major fintechs are taking all these good engineers from the banks and telcos because it's more flexible to go and work with this fintech than being in this bank. Charlie, I've worked with banking, but a lot of bank partners, and it's not easy on them, especially the engineering teams and every other thing. So I'm seeing a lot of value coming from these sites.
All right, so there's light at the end of the tunnel, and these are powerful statements on financial inclusion, on access to foreign markets. But maybe we'll also challenge that as well. Is that a plus or a minus for the entire economy, the capital flight? But I will not let you speak. Let's not speak right yet. We're going to take a quick break and breather. When we come back, we'll probably tackle that, and then she can also share her views on the issue of the overall impact of fintechs in the African continent. We're going to take a quick break. I'm just going to play a short video. Let's watch, and we'll come back in a minute. All right, those are the photos of Dr. Tomisi Pashina. He was MD of eProcess when we were there, and also known to Richard. He did a lot of work in facilitating the rise of fintechs in the bank. He passed on in February this year, and we'd just like to pay tribute to him as well on this episode of Unity Africa. If you're watching this and you don't know him, now you do. And we'd like to appreciate him and the likes of him who have contributed to the growth of others. When they pass from this world, we obviously remember what they have done. So our condolences to the family as well. I think he was laid to rest this past week in Nigeria. And we appreciate his contributions. And we say, may his soul rest in peace. All right. So let me come back again. I'll let Richard take a breather too, because I know Richard was also quite close to Tomisi. So I'm coming back to Shikemi. I'm going to ask you to share your thoughts on uh, the impact, the actual tangible impact. And I like the fact that Richard started with the fact that overall, as a continent, as nations, is almost like we're just going down very fast, right? Uh, so, what do you think fintechs are contributing to our overall growth in our countries? Shikemi.
All right, thanks, Kenneth. So I would speak from a Nigerian perspective because that's the one I'm more familiar with. But before I do that, I want to take a step back and just share my own observation around, you know, growth in a country, aka GDP. So from history, service economy tends to do better, right? So when you look at United States, for example, yes, they are the United States, but a lot of the things that they bring to the world are services, not manufacturing, right? So services economy tend to do better in terms of GDP. So that one historically is established. Now in Nigeria, the financial sector in the last few years has contributed the most to the GDP. Right. So this is numbers now. And happy to also. So I was reading this on CBN's website, and I was doing a study sometime in January. I just wanted to understand some of the numbers because everybody was also always throwing out some numbers, 34% inflation rates in December. We were just being dramatic by the beginning of this year. So I had like a 4 week study where I was just trying to understand what some of those numbers were. And things that I found were quite interesting. Even I didn't know that. So the first thing was, the contribution of the financial sector. And by financial sector, we're not talking about only fintech. We're talking about the banks. We're talking about telecoms. We're talking about insurance. Um, and I think I'm not sure if there's a bit of transport in it. That's for probably the digitized one. So it's actually a big space, to be fair. But I find that curiosing. And when I layer that with our import and export, right? As a country, we export more than we import. We import a lot too, but we export more than we import. And when I look at what Richard is saying around talent, so one of the things that fintech industry as has is it established now is increase in talent. So because of the demand for talent, people are upskilling themselves, whether legitimately or otherwise. I cannot speak to that, but people are upskilling themselves. Now, there are some conversations that are not even hard to have now anymore. Developers, UI, UX, project managers, quality, product, those things are now a dime a dozen. There's a dark side to that, but we'll come back to that. So that has also increased the amount of talent that Nigeria has as a country. And we're shipping it out, right? And so that is also contributing to our exports. Whether everybody is filing taxes, it's a separate conversation. But to a large extent, we're now shipping more talent out of the country. Now, the flip side is that because more people are going out, FX is coming back in. In December last year, for dirty December, I think it was 3 billion or 3 trillion. I can't remember the number. It was three. That was how much was spent in Lagos. I think it was probably a billion. And we're talking about 5 days here, Kenneth. We're not talking about a week. 5 days of people just having fun. So when you put all of those things together, we are growing. To use my English, right? The sector is growing. We are making money. Question is, what are we using the money we're making for? That is a bigger question now. So I'm going to give it to the industry. I will sit here and say the industry hasn't contributed jack. It has transformed, and as a transformation person, there are stages to transformation, right? The fintech as transformation must always cause three things: stop something you are doing, start something to be doing, or change the way you are currently doing something. And the industry has changed the way we transact. We have to give it to them. It has gone a step further to even change the way we look at talent. Your developers that are that their mouth is sweet now, they couldn't call those numbers. The only reason why you're calling those numbers is not because anything has changed, it's because the market has changed. Do you understand? So those are my views. I think the industry has contributed to the economy with numbers, but the question now is the contribution. What have we done with it? How have we used it to either continue that this thing, or are we just using it to snap picture and put on LinkedIn and say, "Hi guys, I was privileged to be at this event." Let me know, don't even get me started with those ones. What are we doing with it? So that would be my own view.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Thank you for your utter honesty. We typically tell people that Iwineti means truth. It is an Amharic word from Ethiopia. And one of the things
Okay.
we wanted to do with this platform is have people speak without political bias or correctness, so that we can
Yeah.
actually face our problems the way at the level we can, right?
Yeah.
And make sure we are telling people the truth. That's powerful. And is it interesting that you mentioned Dirty December? And I will tell a short story on that, and then we can revisit that conversation.
Yeah.
The story has it that quite a few people who came here or came to Lagos for Dirty December went back to their as members of the diaspora, went back to their countries and started requesting for chargebacks. And it was an issue. It was a conversation, which means I have basically used my card here to pay for something. I go back fraudulently. I basically want to take back the money. I claim that because of the mechanisms for processing those payments here are different from those people in Canada, for example. They are able to go back to their banks and say, I didn't authorize this. Why did you charge me? Give me back my money. And people successfully did that. Right. So I don't know whether to what extent that they cut down those millions that we made in 30 December. But that's something we'll talk about in the
Yeah.
next question around fraud. I wanted Richard to talk about this issue, particularly that first line of investing in foreign. First of all, investing in investing in foreign instruments. Is it taking money away from us? Number one. And the second is remote work, which you alluded to by talking about those who are able to get jobs, the higher the value of remote work and its influence on things like taxation, right? So we are still talking about the fact that what's the overall impact of this now global village? Yeah, you mentioned that this issue of I can now buy shares outside. Is it good or bad for the holistic economy? Number two, I can now work remotely. I can earn dollars, $10, $20, $3,000. But the way I earn that money, somehow I may or may not really pay tax, or my tax may be paid to a foreign government. What do you think about those dynamics? I'll unmute. Yeah.
Okay, so Kenneth, I think. Oh, before I start answering the question, let me talk about the video you showed. It was so emotional to me. Dr. Thomason is someone I know personally. He gave me my first opportunity to become a millionaire. So I really owe him for all the success that we have at Finance Mobile and Meta School. Very early stages, I made some personal call to him, and he stood in to be
It's
able
6
to help me navigate certain complex mazes in my life, and I really owe him for our success today. So I will move on to the question. So, yeah. So, Ken, I think the question is about one, the trading of shares. Is it taking money away from us? And to the challenges that we are facing in terms of remote work. This is a double-edged sword. So let's take the shares For example, today someone can sit here in Ghana, Nigeria, just about any country, just invest in the New York Stock Exchange. So I think Kenneth's question is, why shouldn't that person only have access to the Ghana Stock Exchange or the Nigerian Stock Exchange? Why should that? Because it's taking money away from the country. Kenneth, if I invest in the Ghanaian Stock Exchange, at the end of the day, or in about 2 3 years, we know the challenges that happens. You will make your returns all right, but the devaluation at the rate at which the money is devaluating is so high, such that that's why you are making a return. It's been wiped out. People just look at, okay, oh, I invested maybe just to make sure that we are people from other currencies, other countries understand the currency. I'll just use the dollars. Maybe I invested just $10 in the Ghana Stock Exchange, and I went and maybe it's $20. So I made 100% return. But within that span of time, the currency may have devaluated maybe by 30%. So your actual return is very, very low. Now, the thing is that once we allow people from maybe Ghana, Nigeria to invest outside the country, when they make their returns, they're bringing that money back into the country. Because when I want to buy, maybe I want to buy a house, I want to build a house, I'm going to build that house here in Africa, not maybe in the US, despite I've made my returns because the person is still here. So that's how, what we are seeing, the sort of transactions that we are seeing people do on our platforms, they always withdraw the money back in the country. So we shouldn't limit it. It's not that money is going out. Of course, that money could have gone to the Ghana Stock Exchange to support, but that person may not even be entitled to support. They want to invest in the Google because that's the product I use every single day. My company pays so much money to Google every single month because we are using Google Cloud. We are using a lot of Google services. I want to invest in that company so that at least I can make some very good returns. And that's not all. I don't even see the individual investments. What I see is that as countries in Africa, we have to have strategic reserve just to invest in the New York's, these US companies. I did some analysis, and what I was thinking was that, okay, why shouldn't companies or countries like Ghana, Nigeria come together and say that, okay, maybe in the next 20 or 30 years, can we have some strategic reserve that we want to take maybe 2-3% of companies like Microsoft, Google? It has to be a national plan. Bear in mind that every single day, the main reason why our currencies is falling is because of dollar. We don't have enough dollar. But when we are more strategic and making sure that, okay, these reserves of our countries, okay, maybe West African countries or maybe just a partnership between two countries, can we put in a strategic reserve such that we know that we are going to take maybe over this period of time, we are going to invest and own maybe just 5% of Google or Apple. Now, the value of these companies in the next 50 years is going to exceed our GDP. What is the value of Apple right now? $3 trillion. What is the GDP of Nigeria? The biggest in Africa. The whole of Africa, our GDP is $3 trillion. One company is worth $3 trillion. We have to be very strategic. This, just coming back to your question, investing in these companies is not taking money from our table. It's rather enhancing our table. It's going to enhance the financial capacity of the people who are investing in this company. So that's how you are seeing. Secondly, to the challenge of remote work, just to answer this question, when we started very early at Finance Mobile, I think we were looking at the Ghanaian market because that's where most of our staff was based. and we were doing well because we were paying almost at the top tier. All of a sudden, right after the COVID, the remote work started coming in, like becoming so big. Most of our engineers were now getting like offers from other companies. It's the same technology you are using. Kenneth, what we are doing at EcoBank is the same thing you would do at that enterprise architecture level when you are working at Amazon. It's just the same tools you are using. There's nothing different. Right now, what happened was that we were paying X amount, and the person, one of my employees stepped into my company and said, Richard, I've gotten this offer from one of the fund companies. So when I mean the fund companies, I'm talking about Facebook. I just don't want to be specific on the company. And this was the value. It was about 10 times what we were paying the employee here in Ghana. And we were top tier. And the company was ready to pay that employee 10 times the value that we were paying it. So he asked me, Richard, are you ready? Do you want to do something so that, because I want to stay at finance, do you want to match up? I asked him, can I apply? I asked him, I'm a CEO of the company, but I want to apply because I don't know why I want to apply for the role. So this is real competition. It's taking so much talent from the banks. Most of my colleagues that were working in the banks, most of them have left because the stress was too much and the money was of course localized and wasn't that very competitive. And most of them are working for us, like US companies, European companies, and they're getting very good. And the most important thing to also, they are looking at the remote work. It's more stress-free. I'm home. I'm in my home office. I do everything over here. I manage just once in a while. I pass through the office just to knock people or whatever it is, but it's here to stay. And the earlier we or the banks or whichever company out there puts their challenges their internal system such that they are remote first companies, you will not get the best of talent, especially in the engineering department. And this is even going for even the operational, those high-end, high-valued ticket roles. You may not go to the best of talents there.
Wow. Okay, those are insightful thoughts. So the money we are making through these remote jobs, we're probably spending them here, even though we're paying tax. We might be paying tax somewhere else, right? So
Yeah,
as an individual,
even Ghana has introduced a new law. When you're an individual, they will not open a forex account for you. The only time they will open a forex account for you is that you are a remote worker. So once you're a remote worker, automatically they've reported the accounts to the GRE, and once transactions hit the account, they have a percentage. It's just taken automatically. So it depends on how the country itself handles these challenges. You will still get your cuts. They pay their tax, they pay their loss, and when the money hits that account, it's just like the way the e-levy. So e-levy, just to give it a perspective, is 1% on the transaction in Ghana. So once when the person is paying, automatically that 1% is deducted. So it's the same thing which is happening for the remote workers in Ghana here.
Yeah. All right, that's insightful, and that's a good new law from the perspective of the nation. Obviously, from the perspective of the individual, it might be a downside, but we're looking at both sides. So I'm going to switch back to Shikemi. Shikemi, there's an interesting question here, and I think we're going to use it to segue into fraud. Right? This question is about remote work, which we're talking about, but it's more or less a personal experience. Rachel says, can you share a work from home job that is authentic? I don't know whether we'll be able to do that here, but the second part of the question is very interesting. I find it risky to pay before I start work, and this is the trend now. What are your initial thoughts as a process governance person?
I'm sorry about that. If you've actually paid and they did not give you the job, Rachel, but it's not typical. I think that's what I want to first normalize. It's not typical to pay for somebody to employ you. You're seeing Richard telling you about how his employee brought offer letter and they're asking him if he can match it, and he's saying how give me the job too so that me too I can be earning this type of money. So it's not typical. But I want to flip it a bit differently. Right. I know you're expecting me to share a list of websites, and there are tons of that. If you Google or research, you will see a lot of websites that handle remote job. But that's not even as important as you positioning properly. Right, Rachel? That's even more important than whether you are looking for a remote job or you're not looking for a remote job. How are you positioning? What do I mean? The For most people, what we typically do is that we use our job title to describe ourselves. Right? CTOO, CEO, founder. There's more to you than that. And your job title does not tell the full story. Instead, what is it that you, Rachel, have that is not common? I don't know your field. Let's even say you're in risk management. What is it about the way you do your job that is different? And who cares? That brings me to part two. Who cares about this thing that you have? Right? And then how can you get their attention? So you see, I've kind of changed the feedback a little bit. It's not so much about where should I go and search for work. It's about what is it that I have that is my most marketable skill. Who cares about that skill? And then how can I find them? And I feel like for remote job, we are using the story of a few people to paint the entire market. So some people come and tell you, "Oh, I'm getting $5,000. I'm living, I'm balling in this life." There are not that many. Don't get me, they are there. But when you look at the big pie, the slice is not that many. What I've found to be more sticky is value. If you are good at what you do, right, and you can figure out the people that care, that's the word, care about that thing, please go and sell to them. Go and sell to them. I rather you come and ask me, hear me, which companies are looking for risk managers in the construction industry, for example. Why? Because you've perfected your act in looking at all these buildings that are always collapsing. You've built competence about how to prevent it. As an example, that way I can scan my network and say, who is it that I can introduce Rachel to? Do you understand? So it's not so much, I feel like we're going about work in the wrong way. We are looking for remote work when we have not taken time to first say, is it that we have that is most valuable to the market? Until you do that exercise, I can tell you for free, yeah, your search will be painful. It will be painful. So that's my view on that question. But in terms of remote sites, I will, if you follow me, I don't know, somebody posted something on LinkedIn. I don't know how, like, maybe I'll drop it. What I'll do, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'll find the post where the person listed all the remote sites, and then I'll drop it as a comment on this live stream. So you go and look for it there and go and check out the site. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And one of the things we say, if you see our guests, please follow them. They are valuable people. They're very valuable. So please follow. I'll put Shikemi and Richard's LinkedIn URLs in the chat as well very shortly. So, Richard, another question came up for you, but I would like to tackle that. But before I go there, I would like to mention something Richard said earlier as well, that and ties into what Shikemi just said. The tools for most of the more modern jobs that we're seeing today, the tools you are using in Africa are the same as the tools they are using in Europe. The expectations, I mean, we call it singularity. That means generally the world is converging to a very interesting state where most people most things happen in the same way. So people get the opportunities that they have wherever they are. And that's very important to note, that if I'm skilled at something and I've actually been exposed to the right training, you could be worth more to somebody else, which is what Shikeme has said, that somebody may be desirous of paying you much more than what you're earning now for the same set of skills to even start with. And you don't have to pay anybody money to get into that space. That is one of the things we're talking about today, which is fraud. And so expose yourself, follow our guests, follow us. You get information, you get insights, and I think she's giving great insights already. And you'll be able to position yourself to access opportunities. Yeah, so that's basically it. I was in a conversation with enterprise architects from Europe 2 days ago in a Zoom meeting. They were sharing about our perspectives about something called business capability mapping. And interestingly, the experiences are the same everywhere. They are the same everywhere. People are generally the same everywhere. The way people respond to something that is governance heavy, or kind of stringent in its execution, that is not just about, in quote, as agile. The experiences are the same. The conversation was understandable. We could talk, even though I've never worked in Europe, because the concepts are about the same. So understand that you have value, shape your value, and then expose yourself to the opportunities that are there. Thank you so much, Rachel, for that question. And Rachel says, thank you, Shikemi. Right, so I'll post her URL as well. Kathy says that her sister has paid twice. Please tell your sister to stop paying. Okay, I think that's where we can stop that one on. So let me switch back to Richard. Richard, Timothy says, in your thought process, what is the way forward? And I think he's referring to generally, there's a bit of a lag in some of our conversations online. So he started talking about one of the things he spoke about was the accelerated spiral of our whole economies, and now we are even trying to catch up by earning money from outside. So what is at the overall scale, what is your way forward? And Timothy, please do clarify if I didn't get that quite right. What is the way forward for our economies, and what is the way forward to us? Do we just keep going getting jobs from outside? Do we just keep going investing in foreign company? What do we do? Yeah, just briefly on that.
So in terms of the way forward is, I think we've had independence for I think averagely across Africa 50%, 60 years. That's the average across Africa. And we cannot continue doing things the way we are doing. We have to be intentional about certain things that we are doing. Specifically, I think by 2050, Africa is going to control about 30% of the youthful population in the world. We have to really position ourselves. That means we are going to have even more people. People are going to need more jobs than we've currently experiencing. Joblessness is a huge concern in our country right now. We have to be very, very strategic in how we handle it. And secondly, to how we handle our economies, we have to be strategic in how we are going to handle our economies. In the next 50, I always use 50 because I see it as very long-term planning. Things that we couldn't do very well in the past 50 years, we can correct them in the next 50 years. And one thing I am saying that we can actually do is, one, if one company can be as huge as the entire GDP of Africa, it means we are doing something technically wrong. Sikimi, I hope you agree with me on this. It's just wrong. One company. So what we are saying is that this one company is as productive.
We're upcoming. With the Dangote refinery, we're upcoming. Don't mess with us, so we're upcoming.
So what we are saying is that this one company is as productive as all the companies or all the people on this one continent. It just doesn't make sense. If we don't change our ways in the next 50 years, it's just going to be the same ball game. What I'm looking at is one way I'm looking at is that we should decentralize our economies, mostly in terms of telcos. Can we bring all our telcos together as one telco? So maybe what companies like MTN is doing, can we bring our banking sector, build strong institutions? So if we have a telco like MTN or whoever it is fully privatized, but we sweep it across the whole of the continent. This company becomes so huge, and they are listed right here in Africa and also listed in the New York Stock Exchange. So if we intentionally build a $1 trillion company from Africa, automatically, what that will mean that because if we have maybe MTN Ghana, just MTN, and that MTN is listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and that the value of that company is about $3 trillion, automatically it means that the GDP of Africa just moves to $6 trillion just by being intentional about this. That's how I'm seeing the way forward. If we bring our whole banking sector together, okay, right now everything is so fragmented. Nigeria is protecting its market such that nobody enters into our banking sector. Ghana is doing the same. Kenya is doing the same. We have to bring all these barriers down. Let's intentionally build a $1 trillion bank. We have to be deliberate about it. Let's deliberately build a $1 trillion bank. That same bank is listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It's listed in any of the exchanges in Ghana, in Africa here. And automatically, what this means is that we have transferred $3 trillion into our local economy. We have to be very deliberate about this. And I see the fintechs at the forefront of all these things happening. Of course, we will need a government, we will need the regulation. One thing that has been introduced in Ghana, and I think, is it Rwanda? I think Rwanda is the fintech passports, such that once I'm licensed here in Ghana, I don't need to go to Rwanda and get another license automatically. I just let the Rwanda bank know that I'm expanding my business to Rwanda, and I don't need to acquire. The markets are so small, and it's become very challenging. Very challenging. I have to get a license in Ghana to operate, in Nigeria to operate. So that's how I'm seeing the way forward. The way forward is that we have to be intentional leadership. We need the governments all coming together, deliberately build $1 trillion company. If we know that Dangote is doing amazing, this is amazing investment. Can we all say that, okay, in the next 10 years, we want Dangote to be a $1 trillion company? We can do it. Everybody, guys, everybody go and refine here. We are not going to import it. Everybody, the whole continent rallies under one company. Automatically, we move from a $3 trillion company to a $4 trillion without doing anything. It's just about a decision. So that's how I'm seeing the way forward. And it's one place I'm so much on fire to see how. If we don't see this, guys, we are going to be in this game for a long while.
A long time, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just Richard. I mean, the topics you're talking about are profound topics, and one of our first conversations on We Need Africa was, is Africa still getting food? And we've you should watch it. We're very much more aggressive at that time. So there were quite a few other conversations around how we are structured as a continent or as countries in a continent. Things that we don't know whether they will be fixed in our lifetime. One of our guests mentioned that, whether these things will actually be fixed in our lifetime. And we keep trying to see where we can intervene, where we can use our skills, our knowledge, our exposure to help where we can. But there are many things that are so difficult, so complicated, that even the brightest minds, like we have will have a very hard time fixing in our lifetime. So we take the view of doing what we can within the time that we have. Timothy says we have a trust deficit. Yeah, I'm sure that's on breaking down those barriers. All right, we have about 5 minutes to go, and we're just going to touch on some back on some of the key issues of our conversation today. And I want to switch back to Shikemi about fraud. Tell us about fraud. We mentioned Dirty December. You've mentioned the case of give me back my money, which happens a lot on Twitter. There's a trending topic, and somebody comes and says, Access Bank, UBA, EcoBank, whichever bank, give me back my money. So, like, share thoughts on what operational, governance mechanisms we can adopt as founders, as fintechs, as banks, as SMEs who are watching to protect ourselves from. Please talk about that.
Okay, let me start with a question. So you are back in Lagos briefly. For all those you're plenty. So this is to Kenneth now. Kenneth used to sneak inside Lagos multiple times in a year. So next time you're coming this year, let's picture that you're back and you are housed wherever you are. And you want to come visit the office in Lagos, right? And you order an Uber to come take you to that office. After ordering the Uber, or before ordering the Uber, what is the most likely thing that you would do? What's the first thing you do
Uber,
before ordering the Uber?
Maybe I'll check whether I have enough cash in my card, or I'll switch from card to cash.
Okay, that's because you are an international traveler. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, after you've confirmed the money, the likelihood is that you will check the map and see whether how long it's going to take you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's probably what you're going to do. Now, what you would most likely not consider is your driver, because you've outsourced it to Bolt or Uber, and you're saying, well, I trust that the driver is okay and knows the road and all of those things. You're not going to worry about the car, right? You're not going to worry whether the car is, you've outsourced all of those things. And you're not going to worry about whether the driver is competent, right? You just want a service, and so that's what the service is guaranteeing you. And so what you have not acknowledged, or you may have missed, is that there's more to your journey than the route you're going to take or how long you're going to use to get there. There are other parts that can either make or break that journey, aka the driver, aka the quality of the car, and even the driver's expertise, right? And it's the same thing when we are setting up things. I don't want to call it processes, because I feel process is becoming a word that has been abused. Anytime we're trying to set up a service or product, right? The reality is that it is a series of steps that you are taking a customer through. Period. Yes, I'm trying to transfer money. Yes, I'm trying to invest outside of the country. It's a series of steps. First of all, open if you're a broker, open accounts with me. Do KYC. After KYC, fund your wallet. After funding your wallet, go and buy the stock that you want to buy. Whether I'm buying in piecemeal or I'm buying an EFT, whatever it is, then you go ahead and buy. And then you have to then repeat the cycle when I want to withdraw. Right? Now, what most service providers don't do is what we call FEMIA in process world. And it's just a fancy way of saying failure proof test for the things that can go wrong in that process or flow, and plan for it. That's something that I see that we don't do. It's like we just expect, we always design for perfection. We don't live in a perfect world. We don't. As much as we wish we did, we don't. So for me, anybody, as an SME, as a founder, as a CEO, as somebody that is trying to deliver service, I hope you know that your brand is a promise of value. When I download Finance Mobile, for example, I haven't yet gotten value. It's a promise of value that with this, like Timothy said, I would invest $100 and get back 150. That is what Finance Mobile is guaranteeing me or promising me. Now, as I start to interact with the platform and go through the process, that is where the value or the promise actually comes to play, right? And so for most people, if you can just be intentional about planning for failure points, all of these things will go away. I've been in this game for a long time, and we don't plan for failure. I remember when I was integration engineer, I'm supposed to integrate our service to different third parties, and it was around the rise of payments in Nigeria. So I double hatted as a white hat hacker. So I would try to, you know, imitate somebody that wants to cheat you and see whether your system can handle it. This particular uh, project was supposed to go live on a Friday. I said it's not going live because they haven't passed that check. I got reported, they escalated, and I insisted. I said, no, this is too critical for us not to have it. Guess what happened on Monday? So I came in over the weekend, and then finally we went live. Then on Monday, my contact on the project sent me a message and said, Shikemi, can you check this transaction? Why is it saying 30 naira? Like, we don't have any products for 30 naira. I said, did you give value? I said, no, I didn't give value. I said, that's fine. It's not your headache to figure out why people are doing funny things. There's only so much you can control. But once you protect yourself such that you have a solid process for mitigating those things, you'll be fine. And so even though we had a lot of back and forth, right, it came to finally appreciate the stopgap that I provided. But the reality is that putting a fraud system in place delays your project by a few days. And we're not always willing to make that sacrifice. And at the end of the day, the cost of being ripped off is more expensive than the extra 2 or 3 days you could have waited for that project to go live. So there is a cost to every choice we make. And then I like to say, when you automate a bad process, what happens? You produce bad results faster. In fact, you'll be shocked to the way you'll be like, before we went to technology, we were fine now. Why is it that with technology everything is just? It's because technology is very good at following instructions, right? And if your process is bad, it will produce bad results faster. And that's why I love that I have two sides to me. I have a technology side, but I also have an operations and process maturity side. And I'll always tell you, as a fintech in Nigeria, you have to prioritize fraud capabilities. You have to prioritize FEMIA. You have to prioritize figuring out things that can go wrong before they go wrong, and then plug it in so that you protect yourself. Everything is not 0-0, as we like to say, transaction successful. ISO things, right? Everything is not 91. Everything is not 0, whatever code it is. It's a complete ecosystem from when the customer interacts with your products and when they say they are fine and they're not doing it again. Do you understand? So for me, fraud, we can look at different examples, but the fundamental principle, right, is the story that I shared. How well is your process matured, or how mature is your process against things that can go wrong? And that's why there's even a maturity model. Like we have in enterprise architecture, there's a maturity model. If you are in maturity model 0, fraud abounds. As you start to go up, it's not like you're going to ever eliminate fraud, to be honest, because there are so many use cases and people are getting more sophisticated. But at least you don't want to repeat the same mistake twice. If somebody has said they've had an experience, for example, this 30 December one that happened, ask me how many fintech have gone to check their system to edge against this scenario. Most likely not. They'll just say, hey, yeah, they should have done better. Well, you think that your own system is immune from it? So yeah, that's my view on fraud.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Failure proof when you automate a bad process. So I like that balance. And we've talked about at the beginning that we have a set of guests that are looking at these from a core technical perspective as well as a process governance perspective. And that insight on if you automate something that you have not articulated properly, you only amplify the undesirable results. So very important if you are in any space where you have to, balance technology and process. Thank you, Shikemi, for that powerful one. We'll wrap this up in just a couple of minutes, but let me switch back to Richard. And I will finally ask Shikemi to talk about operational excellence in financial service, what that really means as well. But let me switch back to Richard and ask about where you see um, fintechs going in the next 10 years. But just hold the thought. We'll take another 30-second break because this is our last question. All right. All right, welcome back. And we've been talking to Shikemi Tayo and Richard Duodo. Shikemi is from Nigeria. She's an operations excellence expert with background in technology. She's been through the ranks and she's been sharing her views with us. Richard is also a very powerful founder, and he has started two companies. You should check out Meta AI, the edutech, right? This is so powerful. You should check that out, and you should follow our guests on LinkedIn. If you've not subscribed to Winnie Africa, this is your moment. Do so so you see when we go live on future conversations. On this particular conversation, we would want to hear from you as well. Ask your questions before we wrap up. Share your thoughts, share your experience, and others can also benefit from it. So we come back to Richard. From a technical perspective, I will ask Shikemi later about the operations governance or operations excellence perspective. Where do you see fintechs going in Africa in the next 10 years? You're muted.
I'm always muted. So, in the next 10 years, where I'm seeing the fintechs going right now, we are seeing some sort of maturity, or we are almost getting to a mature level in terms of the payment rails. Sikimi also added some. We need to enhance, especially in terms of reversals and other things that we need to see much better traction over there. But in terms of our payment rails, I believe most of the fintechs are going to be well matured over there. The places I really, as a consumer, I'll put myself as a consumer, where I really want to see fintechs really build on top of the payment rail. The thing is that fintech is such a way that it's so layered. Unless the foundation is solved, you can't build certain layers on top, okay? And the first layer is payments. So we see a lot of fintechs in the payment space right now. Everybody is doing payment. Once we have a very strong payment rail and it's built very well, the next we are going to see is loan management or loan solutions. So you see, you can only build that when the base rail is actually built, which is the payment. So I'm trying to see very matured ways whereby people can take loans and very, very good loans, such that we can make the way of acquiring loans from banks archaic. It should be so archaic. Next is wealth management, wealth management, and then mortgage. I want to see, these are places we are not really seeing so much traction over there. In the next 10 years, I really want to see. But the most important aspect, which is above all of this, is BNPL. I don't know if there is any fintech founder over here on the platform listening. Please look seriously into this. I'll be very strategic. I'm going to share with you our playbook. I would take mobile money. I think in Africa, mobile money actually started taking wave, let's say about 15 years, give and take, okay, from Kenya spreading across the other countries. Let's just give it take about 15 years. And what you realize is that everything is just around payments. Payments. The banks are struggling to catch up. And it's because naturally they just cannot catch up. The telcos have the infrastructure to be able to get deeper. The banks cannot get there because they have to build a bank. The telco says that, hey, your container is a bank. Just transact anything. Your table that you're sitting on is a bank. Perform your transactions right now. So the telcos are able to get into the interlands and perform huge transactions that the banks just cannot do it. Some of them are entering into the mobile payment space and they are not catching up. It's literally impossible. I see the next wave coming is going to be BNPL. Okay. So the BNPL operates a little bit differently from a loan wallet. Okay. So a loan wallet, I have to tell my telco that I need $10, and the telco will put that $10 into my wallet. I spend, then I pay back. Maybe I pay $11 or $12. Now, how we are saying that next 10 years is that now these wallets are going to transform into BNPL wallets. So what is going to happen is that maybe a company like MTN is going to tell me, hey, Richard, you have a BNPL wallet of maybe 100 Ghana cedis or 200 Ghana cedis. And what this means is that as soon as I acquire the wallet, there's already money on this wallet. I don't have to now put money on the wallet. So it's the loan, but you are changing it. You are just changing it slightly. Okay. So as soon as I acquire the wallet, there's already money on the wallet. When I spend the money, all I have to do is that, and I can now top up. Okay, so I now have $200. So it's like more of my credit limit. Even though I've not placed any money in my wallet, I can spend up to the 200 Ghana cedis, or let me just say 200 Ghana cedis. Let's say about $15 or something. I can spend that money, and when I finish spending, I can just top up again.
So this is almost like a credit card on your mobile phone.
It's a credit card on my mobile phone, briefly. So I spend that money, I pay back, and the good part is that when I pay back, now they can now increase my credit limit to maybe 210 because I've paid back. And because I want to build a very good system, I keep on paying, and my wallet is also, my credit limit is also increasing. This is the future.
Credit scoring.
Yeah. So you have built, and some people can start as low as maybe just $2 just to manage risks. Use the $2 when you pay back will increase your credit, your wallet's limit. And I know that I can go.
So I have to pause you there, Richard, so that this is a very interesting topic for another edition. This is a very interesting topic. I'm sure people have already begun to say, wow, Richard, when are you building this? We want money free. So, and I'm sure Shigem is thinking, what are all the loopholes of this new BNPL system in Africa? So I will also, because of our time, I will allow Shikemi to paint a vision of fintechs in Africa from the operations, from the governance perspective. Maybe you want to also highlight some of these examples that Richard has given and talk about how, if anyone is on the call who wants to pursue it, what would be the mitigations, the proactive mitigations of possible failure points? Thank you.
So one of the things that I find that is inevitable is operational excellence. in the next 10 years. If you want to scale and you want to remain relevant in the industry, you have to have a mature way of running your business. And just to be clear, operational excellence is not talking about your operations department, by the way. It's not about a department or a team. I like to define operational excellence as a journey, right? Where you have a time allocated for you to get to a destination. So you have 20 minutes to get to Yaba from Victoria Island. All the things that you're going to need to get to that place in 20 minutes repeatedly makes up operational excellence. Most people think operational excellence is process improvement. No, process improvement is one sub pillar. It's not even one pillar, it's a sub pillar under operational excellence. So think of it as the way you are constantly scanning your journey. You make sure you have things in place, you make sure you have the right driver, you make sure that it's the same principle and it's going to change per industry and per product. So the thing that BNPL needs to worry about, another product may not need to worry about it. But the goal is, I keep saying the goal is repeatable outcomes. Let's leave the English. Let's leave the fancy name. It's how can I achieve repeatable outcomes with this product or this service, right? So for me, that is going to become more important because there's only so much technology you can assign to a particular business. After a while, technology needs to operate properly. So right now we're in a phase of building. Everybody's excited. There is money. There is funding. It's good. I'm not beefing the builders. It's a good place to be. But after building, there is operating. And that's where we haven't built a lot of competence. Why? Because it's boring. It's not sexy. It's stressful. I just want to talk about how we launched this new picture and take pictures. I don't want to have to talk about how we are doing process. Yeah, but guess what? Is those things, even in life, right? Is the boring things that keeps you going. It's not the one-off excitement things. And it's not different in business. And that's why people like me have understood that it is inevitable and we are positioning ourselves as an expert to help organizations to achieve this, but more importantly, also to groom the next set of CTOs or operationally inclined professionals because it's inevitable. So that's how I see us. That's how I see us in the next 10 years. So Richard, when you build plus when you finish your suite of products and you finish building, we'll talk about how we want to make sure it's operating consistently without you. That's so important, right? Now, in terms of this particular, in terms of this particular BNPL, when you look, the way to look at it, whenever you build a product, is always ask yourself, what can go wrong? That's the most powerful question you can ask at any time. I promise you, if you ask this question and you get the right answers and you edge against it, you'll be fine. I bet my considerable salary that you'll be fine. The problem is that we even think it is wrong to ask what can go wrong. Almost like we are jinxing it. No, you're not jinxing it. You're being smart because things will go wrong. So learning to know, when I was starting my own consulting business, I had a lot of conversation with my peers. And one of the things I'm always looking forward to is the things that can go wrong that I am not seeing. Because what I see on LinkedIn is a success story, right? But there are quite a number of things that can go wrong. And I've learned that my post on Monday is talking about all the waste I've done, setting up websites and doing all of those things. Meanwhile, that was not what I needed to focus on in my year 1 or 2. Do you understand? So for me, always ask the question, what can go wrong? BNPL, the most important thing that can go wrong is that you take the money you lost. So how do I solve for that, or how do I minimize it? Because the reality is that even though we're starting with $2, it's easy for the scammer to pay back $2. When it gets to the high point, you need to find other things that you're going to check besides repayment. to constantly give this person. That is they are bringing small collateral. It's not really like collateral, but you know what I mean. You need to pin them. Like default needs to pin them. The way default pins them in North America. If I default, it affects my credit score. If I have my credit score is low, I can't do anything. I can't open anything. So we need to build a system that says what can go wrong and how do I hedge it? And repayment is not enough. There must be something that there must be, and please don't say we're starting credit score in Nigeria or in Africa. Good luck with that one. But there has to be an equivalent of it. So those are my immediate thoughts on this particular use case.
All right, thank you so much. We have to call it a wrap. We've been almost 2 hours, and it's been so insightful. Almost 2 hours. We could go on and on, but we have to leave some topics for another day. So I want to appreciate you, Shikemi Tayo and Richard Dodo, for sharing your thoughts. Everyone in the audience, if you're watching this now, if you're watching it later, please follow them. Please glean their expertise. That is why we're here, to showcase such high profile talent and to give you the opportunity to engage with them beyond the call and to also get value. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you for spending your time. Some spent 1 minute, some spent 10 minutes, some spent 5 minutes, some will still spend more time with us. And we appreciate every one of you. This is Unity Africa Truth. And we are showcasing emerging entrepreneurs doing amazing things across the continent. We'll be back another time, and you'll see this video featured on our channel on YouTube and as well as LinkedIn. Thank you, Shikemi. Thank you, Richard. We'll close out once again, honoring our, let me call him our Papa, right? Who has gone home. And then we shall end the call. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, Kathy says thank you for putting this up. Okay, bye, everyone. Bye. Yeah.